So now we're gonna make some pepperoni and cheese mini muffins. They're perfect bite size, great to go in a lunchbox, and nice and healthy for the kids. I do use nitrate-free meat, so that does make it healthier. You can use whatever you want. And sometimes I don't have pepperoni, so I use a stick of dried sausage instead, like I have here today. So I went ahead previously and chopped it into little bite-sized pieces. And I'm using 2 cups of that, which usually is about 1 whole stick. So it makes the recipe really easy. Use the stick to measure. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And to that, I'm gonna add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And whisk that together. Not putting any salt in here because the meat and the cheese usually has enough salt content. You don't wanna oversalt it. And I'm putting 2 cups of previously grated Parmesan cheese. If you don't grate it yourself, it's fine, there's no problem. You can get it already grated in a bag. You can get it grated in the green container that everybody buys. Whatever you choose. Fresh grated is best. It's gonna taste better fresh off the block. If you don't have time to do that, it's perfectly fine. One tip that I do have is if you have a high-powered blender or a Vitamix, I just put the block of cheese in there in big chunks and blend it up for a minute or 2, and you end up with nice, finely grated Parmesan cheese. You can also use Pecorino Romano for this recipe. You can use some of each, a cup of each, but as long as you have 2 cups of grated cheese, I'm gonna add that to the flour and the baking powder. Just mix that a little bit. And I have 2 cups of milk, and I'm gonna add 2 eggs to the 2 cups of milk. I do like to crack the eggs separately to make sure that no little pieces of shell get in there. It's easier to get it out of the measuring cup than to get it out of the big bowl if you do get a piece. 2 eggs. It's a pretty simple recipe to remember. 2 teaspoons baking powder, 2 cups of meat, 2 cups of cheese, 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of milk, and 2 eggs. So once your milk and eggs are combined, you add the wet ingredients to the dry. Stir that together. This is another one of Miss Sharon's recipes that I've been making for the last 30 years. It is one of the kids' favorites. It's one of the animals' favorites. The reason I say that is because one year I had made like 6 dozen of these for Christmas. I made them ahead of time because we were getting a lot of company, and put them in a container with all the Christmas cookies, and they were still a little bit warm, so I didn't cover it, and the dog got into it and ate them all. So that was a beagle that we had years ago. If you know me, you know that story. We weren't happy. And once this is all combined, I'm gonna add the meat. Super simple recipe. Kids are gonna love it, and they're gonna ask for it all the time. It's nice to have a little savory muffin treat instead of sweet. And making it from scratch ensures that all of your ingredients are healthy. It's a healthier option than a prepackaged snack. I know that prepackaged snacks are really convenient, but that convenience does come with a price of unhealthiness and expense. So my oven is heating to 350 degrees. I sprayed a muffin tin, and I'm going to use a large cookie scoop and fill the holes of the tin. Okay, so my oven is preheated to 350 degrees. These are going to go in for about 10 to 12 minutes, and depending on your oven, it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. It did come up a little bit short. I have two empty tins here. I probably overfilled some of them, but get these in the oven. So here's a few examples of some of the things that I would give my kids for lunch if I was sending them to school. Since they were homeschooled, they just came in the kitchen and got a little cup of something and sat down with it. But it's pretty much the same thing, except we didn't have to package it. I have some raw pumpkin seeds or sprouted pumpkin seeds, which is great. It's so healthy to grab a handful of these. I like to have these. Righteous Felon is the brand. It doesn't matter, but a nitrate-free meat stick is great, and they come in smaller sizes too, so it's easy to just put one in a lunchbox. They're not getting a ton of meat, but it's extra protein. It's healthy. I have some dried fruit like whole dried blueberries, dried cranberries. The freeze-dried snacks are great for really little ones. These are freeze-dried strawberries. Organic plantain chips. Now this is one that just has plantain, coconut oil, and Himalayan pink salt. So 3 really simple, easy ingredients that's good for you. A handful of granola, my homemade granola. I do need to do another batch because we're almost out of that. And then I like to buy chips that are either avocado oil, olive oil. There are some with coconut oil that are available. So you just have potatoes, olive oil, and sea salt. That's all that's in here. They're done. They look perfect. They puffed up nicely. I'm gonna let them cool in the pan for a couple of minutes because they're too hot to try to take out. So these have cooled for about 10 minutes. They pop out easily. Cute, just the right size for a lunchbox. So this recipe is for sourdough discard crackers. These crackers I've been making for about 30 years. This recipe came from my friend Stephanie's mom, Sharon, who you've probably heard me talk about before in my videos. She was an amazing cook, and I'm so thankful to have some of her recipes. This one is definitely a keeper. It's one of our favorite, and we make it often. Here I am putting a half a cup of sourdough discard into a bowl, 1/3 of a cup of good quality olive oil, 1/4 of a cup of water, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to mix those together to combine. Once that is mixed together, I'm going to add 1 3/4 cups of flour. I'm using all-purpose flour. You can use all-purpose einkorn. You can use any all-purpose flour, or even a gluten-free mix flour. I'm putting in about 6 or 8 turns of fresh crushed black pepper. You can do that to taste. And with the flour, I'm adding 1 1/4 teaspoons of instant yeast and 1 tablespoon of fennel seeds. I'll continue to mix that together in the bowl until it comes together into a ball, and then I'm going to knead it for a couple of minutes right in the bowl, and then I'll cover the bowl, and I'm going to let it sit on the counter and rest for 30 minutes before doing the next step. The kids love these crackers. It's really a great little addition to your weekly routine, and so good to put in the kids' lunchbox for school for a healthy treat. They're great with soup, they're great with salad. My kids just grab a handful and have them as a snack. I keep them on the counter, and every time they walk by, they grab a handful. So now that the ball of dough has rested for 30 minutes, I'm going to put it on the counter. I'm going to cut it in half and keep cutting each half in half until I end up with about 30 to 34 pieces of dough. It doesn't really matter if some are bigger or smaller. And then I'm going to roll each piece into a 6-inch rope. And then once each piece is rolled into about a 6-inch length, I just turn them into a circle and pinch the ends together and put them onto an ungreased baking sheet. These are going to go into the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes on the first side. Then I'm going to take the pan out and cook them for another 20 minutes on the second side. I'll put them on a cooling rack and let them cool, and then just package them up as you would any other snack into an airtight container or into a plastic Ziploc bag. Or you can go right ahead and put them into individual bags, snack-sized bags, so they're ready for the week for the kids for their lunch. Today I'm going to make a chocolate pumpkin muffin. This is great to pop into your kids' lunchbox. It's a great breakfast before they go off to school. And who doesn't love chocolate and pumpkin, right? So today we're going to start with 1.5 cups of flour. I'm using all-purpose einkorn flour. You can use any all-purpose flour. You can even play around with flours and switch them up if you like. But I like using einkorn, so we're gonna go with that. It's 1.5 cups of einkorn. And I'm putting in 1 cup of organic raw sugar. You can use coconut sugar for this. I have used that. And we're putting in 1/3 of a cup of cocoa powder. I'm using the triple cocoa powder blend from King Arthur. You can use any cocoa powder. If you prefer the dark ones, you can go ahead and use that. This is a mixture of a dark and it's actually black cocoa powder. There's 3 different kinds in here anyway, and I can't remember off the top of my head what they are, but it's a great mixture, a great blend, so I love using that. And I'm just gonna grab my whisk. I'm also putting in 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. Mix them all together until they're combined. This is a really good muffin recipe. It's so delicious, it comes together quickly. You can make it into mini muffins and just cut down on the cooking time if you'd rather put mini muffins in the kids' lunchbox. Or you can even make it into a loaf, like a bread in a standard sized bread pan. And that's gonna take you closer to an hour to bake. So I like going in between and making them muffin size. Okay, and now I'm gonna put some wet ingredients together. First, I'm going to start with 1/4 of a cup of avocado oil. You can use coconut oil for this also. I ran out of coconut oil, so I'm not using that, but I do use avocado oil often in my baked goods. So you can use either one. And I'm putting in 1/4 of a cup of almond butter. This adds a little bit of protein. It helps the bread have such a nice texture. It adds a healthy fat. So mix those together. And I'm adding 2 teaspoons of homemade vanilla extract. Any vanilla extract will do. You do want to try to use a pure one though. You really don't want to get an artificially flavored vanilla extract. A lot of them have a lot of water content, so you're really not getting the true vanilla flavor, and there is sugar in some of them also. And I'm going to add 1 cup of pumpkin puree. You want to be careful. You want to make sure that you're not adding the pumpkin pie filling. You want it to be pure. Here I have, I believe this was from Imperfect Foods. I get orders often from them, and it's organic pumpkin puree. It's really orange. It's really beautiful. The pumpkin is so good for you. There's lots of vitamins and minerals in there. And the kids won't even know what's in there. This one's a little bit tight for some reason. And then here I have 1 cup of organic strong brewed black coffee. But if you don't want to give the kids caffeine, go ahead and use decaf. The coffee and the chocolate go so well together, and the coffee brings out the flavor of the chocolate. So you can just go ahead, there's no eggs in here, so you can go ahead and use hot coffee, make your morning coffee, and put it right into the pumpkin and oil mixture. Just blend that together until it's all combined. And I forgot to put in, we're putting in 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice mix. Now you can make your own, definitely, you know, ginger and cinnamon and nutmeg. I like to have this on hand because I find it easier than pulling out a whole bunch of different spices and just using 1.5 teaspoons of this pumpkin pie spice. Whisk that into the dry ingredients. And pour your wet into the dry. Really is simple. It smells amazing. Those together. I don't want to over mix it. I'm just going to mix it until it's combined. And actually, just before the flour is fully combined, and I'm going to add 1/2 cup of dark chocolate chips. You can leave this out. A lot of times I use Lily's chocolate chips. They're stevia sweetened. There's quite a few brands out there that you can get that are naturally sugar-free, naturally sweetened. These I'm using are Ghirardelli's dark chocolate chips, and I'm gonna add half of those in, and I'm saving the other half for the top. Mixture is beautiful. It's not quite as thick as a brownie batter, but it's similar. And then I just take a large ice cream scoop, or if you have a really big cookie scoop, and it makes it easier to get these into muffin shapes. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these into a 350-degree oven. We're gonna check them at about 20 minutes. Every oven's a little bit different, so we'll start checking them at 20 minutes. So the muffins went into a 350-degree oven for 25 minutes. I did check them at 20, and the toothpick when inserted was still a little bit tacky, a little bit fudgy. They are a dense, fudgy muffin, almost like a brownie, but you do want the toothpick to come out pretty clean. If it has little cakey cooked parts on it, that's fine. And one thing I forgot before I put them in the oven, I actually had to take them back out of the oven, was to sprinkle the rest of the chocolate chips on top. I caught it quick enough. Again, you don't have to add any more chocolate chips on top. You don't have to add the chocolate chips at all. But once they cool, it does add a little bit of texture in there. And I mean, everybody loves chocolate, so why not, right? So go ahead and let them cool, and then you're just gonna take them out and pack them into, I have a glass container that I put them in. You can go ahead and even pack them in little bags and have them ready for the whole week, like individual bags. And so the kids can just grab one and put them in their lunchbox. Or if you're gonna be eating them for breakfast, they're gonna keep just fine. One thing I forgot to mention is I did say that I was using a large ice cream scoop, but I didn't mention the exact size. So this is a 1/4 of a cup ice cream scoop. So I did measure it out. If you have something that's a 1/4 of a cup, you're gonna end up with about 16 muffins. If you have a scoop that's a little bit less, then you can do 18. You really don't wanna go more than a 1/4 of a cup because the batter will go over the pan. Let me show you. So, I mean, it rose just above the cupcake wrappers. And you really don't want to go any much higher than that because you will have a disaster. Thank you so much for spending time with me today in the kitchen. I hope you got some inspiration. Head on over to simplyeatathome.com for these recipes and more.